Hey Acers! So for today's video, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the financial investment that it takes to get into some of these games. And specifically, the financial advantage of playing Savage Worlds over Dungeons & Dragons. Neither one of them is a sponsor, and I don't want to deter anybody from playing either game. I have fun playing Dungeons & Dragons. I just played it last night with my friends. And Dungeons and Dragons is great for getting that Dungeons and Dragons feel. However, Savage Worlds hits a lot more sweet spots for me than Dungeons and Dragons. So when you look at just the book itself, this player's handbook, I bought it in 2016. It's still $50 for the ones that are still on the shelves. But Wizards is about to raise the price. And when they come out with their 2024 50th anniversary, basically special edition, it's going to be more. And I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to buy it, because on one hand, it'd be cool to have a special commemorative 50th anniversary D&D hooray. On the other hand, last year, Hasbro revealed how much they and Wizards of the Coast hate us as fans and hate people who want to try and create anything for this. So that said, this, of course, is the player's handbook. And one thing that I definitely loved about this is that it did fix a lot of the mechanics that I didn't particularly like with third edition, which fixed a lot of the mechanics that I didn't necessarily like with second edition and or first edition. I've played all but fourth edition of D&D. That was in my hiatus period. But the point is that fifth edition really kind of was the culmination of all of those years of TSR's build up and fall, and Wizards of the Coast buying them, building up and getting bought by Hasbro just like 2 years later. And yeah, it's pretty amazing how such a big company like Hasbro that owned my childhood. Anytime I got any money as a kid, I'd be buying a G.I. Joe down at Cash's Western Auto up on the second floor. I was there. I went in and I bought me another G.I. Joe. I still have about 100 of them. But Hasbro, who bought Kenner and got Star Wars, Hasbro also bought Wizards of the Coast 2 years after they acquired TSR. And the book is a pretty good book. I do have to say that in as far as the races go, I hate this artist, or not this person, but their work. I do not like the halflings in this book, but all the rest of the art in here is pretty darn good. It's pretty well put together, and I really enjoyed playing this, and I have enjoyed playing this, and I was just, like I said, playing it last night. There, another halfling. Not my favorite art. So, the thing is, though, is that once you get past character creation and get your equipment, and you get into the second part, after your customization options and everything, part two is playing the game. So that's your rules, that's your using skills and saving throws and things like that. That's your using magic. That's your combat, and it's got a quick. And then you get into your magic and the actual rules of magic, and that's a nice little introduction. And then you get pretty much the rest of the book here from page 207 to page 289. So 82 pages of spells. That's a lot of spells. Compare this at $50, like I said, with Savage Worlds. Now, actually, before I go into Savage Worlds, I do want to add that if you want to Dungeon Master D&D, there's still 2 more books you usually need to pick up, and they're also $50 a pop. That's the DM's guide and the monster's manual. So all three of those together cost you $150. Now you might already have parts of it, and it might not cost you all that in one blow, and it might. But then after you buy the books, you need to make character sheets, which printing and making copies and things is now pretty much negligible. People might use D&D Beyond. I use D&D Beyond, at least until my subscription from last year runs out, because I didn't cancel in time. And then you got to buy dice, and a crap ton of them, because sometimes things are doing 8d6 of damage. Well, that's kind of how it all starts. And it's fun, and you can tell some great stories with your friends on that. But let's compare it to Savage Worlds. Now, 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, they came out with Savage Worlds. And this was a very basic... I still had great artwork in it for black and white, but it was basic, just print, and it's like got rules on advancement and experience awards and everything like that. And the powers, that's it. It was 83 to 88, 5 pages of powers. That was it. And because it gave you the templates for any other powers you might want to build. Now, in 2018, at end of 2018, right around October, November of that year, they did the Kickstarter for the newest one. Now, from that first edition of Savage Worlds, there was the Explorers Edition, there's the Deluxe Edition, and I might even be missing an edition in there. So there's like 4 editions, and then this is technically the latest edition. And we don't call them by numbers, we call them by names. This one is this is the Adventure Edition. So Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, or Suede, it's also called. And this book contains all of your player stuff, up through your rules, and even some options and everything like that of how to do chases and things like that. And then your powers section goes from page... It starts with the introduction to power stuff, so we could even skip that as far as counting spells. And we go into power starting on page 154, and it continues through 173. So we're talking, and that's including the power summary chart. So the power descriptions end on 171. So that's, let's see, 16, 17 pages of powers. And they, again, give you enough of a template to be able to build specific powers that you need. But these are the powers for all means of casting powers. So you could have a magic caster, somebody who speaks a spell and uses components to cast disguise, and they can disguise themselves. You could have a psionicist who uses psionics to cast disguise. You could have somebody who's just gifted with one ability, and their one ability is disguise, so they can sneak away. You can have somebody who uses weird science and has a image inducer that is a disguise power. It's all very abstracted, meaning withdrawn from the actual thing. So you don't need to get too specific and drill down too deep. And like, as an example, there's a power called Bolt. Bolt covers lightning bolts, fire bolts, ice bolts, darkness bolts, colored bolts, a stream of insects, whatever it actually is. Those are called trappings, and trappings are how you distinguish one person's bolt from another person's bolt. And it doesn't matter what kind it is. It does 2d6 damage when it hits, or 3d6 if you got what's called a raise. And for those of you who've watched the earlier videos, you know what a raise is. The point is, you have one power description that can be applied to so many different things. And you don't just leave it called Bolt. It could be Magatha's Marbles. It could be face disguise or something like that. You call it whatever your character would call it, whatever your character's disciplines would teach them to be. And then after that, you get your bestiary, which is starting on page 180 and going to page 191. So 11 pages of beasts. Again, templates for making other specific monsters. And it's okay to grab the flying ability of one creature, to attach flying to a cat and make it a drone. There you go. And then finally, from page 193 through the index, on page 203, or 202 technically, 193 to 202, so just short of 10 pages. So 9 pages of Game Master instructions. And that's it. That's the whole book. That's all 3 of the books that you get for D&D in one book that costs $39.99. And still costs $39.99. Now, admittedly, their deluxe edition was pretty cool when I was able to get a little core pamphlet-sized rule book, or I don't even know what the sizes are officially, but it was a little tiny rule book. And it was all Savage Worlds, just shrunk down a little bit, and it was $10. And that got a lot of people into Savage Worlds. But Savage Worlds has been around for 20 years, and this just got its 5th printing last year, and celebrating its 20 years. And the books just keep getting better and better, and people keep backing more and more. Savage Worlds has its core setting, Deadlands, just like D&D has its own settings. But yes, you could spend another $40 on Deadlands. And then that kind of does get you close to the 80. I mean, if you really want to do it and you get the box set of Deadlands, it comes with the Deadlands core rulebook and a bunch of stuff, maps and everything. That's talking, you're talking $140, because it's $100 for Deadlands and then $40 for the core rulebook. And that's it. You just spend almost as much as you did getting into D&D, still $10 less. And on top of that, you now have a fully fleshed world with the dice, the bennies, the map that shows the Western United States, or the Western America, because they just got reunited, but there's still the Indian confederations, and just there's a whole history to it. And it's really well written out history. And not saying that D&D doesn't have some great written out histories and stuff, but a lot of people like to add miniatures into that. And you can add miniatures into Savage Worlds. I like playing Theater of the Mind, but Savage Worlds can use miniatures. And Savage Worlds can do mass battles. You could use your Warcraft figurines and play Warcraft using Savage Worlds mass battles rules. Whatever you choose to do with Savage Worlds, it's a lot more versatile. In D&D, you're kind of good with solid high fantasy. And high fantasy's good. High fantasy's fun. I have no problems with it. And I do not poo-poo on your fun. So if you're having fun playing D&D, you don't need to switch over to Savage Worlds. But if you want to try doing something like... Oh, and incidentally, if you want more information on world building and game mastering, Savage Worlds has a little $20 additional piece on game mastering and world building, which is handy. Add to that, and I've only got these 2 so far, but they put out a superpowers companion. So now not only can you play all the other kind of powers that are in Savage Worlds, but now you've got superpowers, and it's a really well detailed book. And this has got your villains you can fight in it, and different levels of superheroes. They come with great bookmarks now That's one of the best things that Savage Worlds has done, is start putting in good bookmarks. And then there's also, just recently, got this last year in the physical copy, the Fantasy Companion. So if you want to play fantasy, here you go. And if you want to play fantasy, they have archetype cards. They have so much. Shane Hensley, who is an amazing man. I give a shout out to him. I love the man. He is absolutely wonderful. Shane Hensley created Savage Worlds, understanding that we gamers grow up. And sometimes we don't have hours and hours and hours to spend preparing for the game. Any extra in Savage Worlds, an extra being just a person who could be a mook, could be just somebody who's an NPC who's trying to help people out, whatever. Any extra usually has a 6 in all of their stats, a D6 in all of their stats, and a D8 in what they're good at. So if they're a mook, they're going to either have a D8 in fighting or a D8 in shooting, or maybe a D8 in both. And you can run that in your head. You don't need to sit there and prep every single monster that you're going to be throwing at your players. That being said, there's still a plus to doing preparation, but you can balance your preparation with other things. So that's really, I mean, yes, each of these is another, like, the Fantasy Companion is $44.99. So you can, at a certain point, get into much more expensive overall expense, I should say. $39.99 for the Superpowers Companion, by the way. But still, you can get into something, and not so much, I should say, expensive, but you can buy more things. And you can buy more things with D&D. There's nothing wrong with buying more things for D&D. There's Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, or whatever it is. I mean, there are just books and books and books. And I've just seen people with stacks this big of just player books. And that's wonderful. But just remember, the prices on the D&D stuff are going up. They're taking them up 20 to 40% this year. And it's going to cost a lot more. I mean, I understand the role-playing game industry doesn't make that much money. And I understand that, because once we bought our one Savage Worlds core rulebook, we tend not to buy anymore. However, I've bought in on other things. And oh, here's the other thing. Savage Worlds, when you buy that core rulebook, you get a free $10 PDF. So you get the PDF and the hardback book for $39.99. Go to Pinnacle, their website, www.peginc.com, and it's in the show notes down here. And pick yourself up a copy. It's awesome. It's amazing. It's one of the, like I said, one of the best games that I've ever played. And I'm getting ready to run some of it at BSRCon this next weekend. Unfortunately, you need to be 18 or older to attend that one. Just because they're just like, we don't want to deal with kids. And I understand. But hey, you guys are still important. And to teach you and prepare you for when you're 18 and can attend. That's what my channel is all about. I'm about helping you guys become better game masters so that you can run stuff at BSRCon, and you can do so with good confidence because you've got the right tools that you need. I mean, yes, there are bennies. The core Savage Worlds bennies, they're pretty spiffy if I can get them to not shine. There you go. That's like the dirigible and the skull. And incidentally, their Benny products are really top notch most of the time. I've gotten a couple times where the special theme ones, like my East Texas University ones, the outside part kind of chipped and fell off, but it's still awesome. Here's the Fantasy Sword and Shield, and here's the Sci-Fi, a Pew Pew Blaster. And those are the 4 types, but there are lots of things. There's a great Essentials box set coming out, I can't remember what they called it, but it comes with these bennies here. It comes with not the core rulebook, but it comes with the action deck. This is an oversized action deck. I love this deck. I use it all the time. It comes with status cards. Comes with power cards. And comes with an adventure deck. And there's even supplements for those decks from the superpowers and Deadlands Lost Colony, which is another Deadlands setting. I'll talk about that another time. But I wanted to just kind of give you guys an idea as to how you could actually play the genre that you want, the story that you want with your friends, and have them waiting for you every week, just the same way my friends were waiting for me when I was suicidal as a teenager. And that's why I tell you every week, and I mean it, I love you. And someone in this world does love you. And you are amazing, and the world is a better place because you're in it. And I hope to see you at my table.